Marche Robinson is an attorney, entrepreneur, and content creator based in North Carolina. Alongside her husband Michael, who is also an attorney, so they share their journey of, well, she shares her journey of motherhood. He's not really a mother, but they share their journey of parenthood, fitness, and entrepreneurship with the online community that is growing by the day, and it's really, really big. Welcome, Marche.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. Uh,
Absolutely. So I'm interested in some lessons because you figured out some keys
Woo,
for social media,
yeah.
and I want to know all the things and how to grow. And so, what have you learned? First, we're gonna talk about money. What have you learned about brand partnerships and monetization that you wish you knew earlier?
Okay, that's a good question because I've been doing this for a long time, like pre monetization. I will say number one is never accept the first rate that is
Mm,
sent to you, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, you should already have kind of your rates in the back of your mind. You should kind of know generally what you're going to charge for different assets. So, like a reel, a picture, usage, those things. And I think a lot of times, I know when I got my first brand deal, I got paid $50 by Harrods in
Wow,
London.
wow,
And I tell people it wasn't even 50 because I had to pay the transfer fee from PayPal to put it in my bank
wow.
account. But you get so excited to get those offers and just know that like you can negotiate. Make sure you are trying to get your value and that you're not just jumping at the first offer because you're
Yeah.
excited. So
So
I would say.
at what point can you charge? So let's say I'm not as big as Marche on Instagram or TikTok or wherever. At what point is there a number that I can start
Mhm.
charging at? Is there another metric people are looking
Yeah.
at?
So I definitely think, you have to take into account your metrics in a way just because it's always nice to give something tangible. So like maybe you charge a percentage of your following. I know when I first started understanding that you could monetize, someone in the industry was like, "Oh, charge, 4% of your following." So take your following, multiply that by 4%, and that's what you should charge for a post. And then if you do a reel, maybe it's more because it's video. If you do stories, cut that in half.
Hmm.
A lot of the calculators out there to me lowball you, so I wouldn't necessarily go by that. But I also tell people like you have to charge for your time and effort. I think being an attorney, that's kind of drilled in you from day one is that like your time is valuable. So the time you take to strategize your content, to shoot your content, to edit, to get it wrapped up nice and pretty for the brand, all those things cost money. So you are valuable from day one, even when it's just, your cousins following you or your best
Yeah,
friend
yeah,
following you. You still valuable because you are putting your time in. So I think you just need to take into account everything you're doing because sometimes we think we're making a lot. And then if you take the time you spent and cut that down and multiply, you're like, oh, I wasn't making that much,
yeah.
based on my effort. So definitely just make sure it's something you're comfortable with. I would never give like a hard and fast, this is what you should charge. But yeah, I would definitely think about, factoring in your following, but also your time.
How do
Yeah,
you
probably that.
decide what parts of your life to share and what to keep private?
So I feel like I call myself a true lifestyle creator because I just kind of share a lot of things. I always love fashion and beauty, and when I first started creating content, I just had a blog, so it was just pictures from the internet, and then it evolved to personal style photos, and then when I got married, I featured my husband, and if I started businesses or when I was working in corporate, I would feature those things, and now I'm a mom, so I feature that. So I like to kind of share the things that I'm passionate about, but I feel like everyone should have that boundary. There's just certain things I don't share that much of. I don't really share a lot of my daughter. I don't share her face. I just feel like, I'm an 80s baby. So I grew up in a time where you could go outside and you're just out in the streets. There's no
Yeah.
phones. No, there's not gonna be a picture of it tomorrow. And so I want to give her as much of that upbringing as I had because I feel like, that was the way to be, where you're not just everything isn't just online. So I
Hmm.
try to limit her as much as possible, but she's with me a lot. So she is in some of the content. So that's probably my main thing.
So when before you became the Marche, 160,000 people on Instagram know, and almost 100,000 or more on TikTok know. When you decided I'm going to start sharing? What was that decision making process like? Like, how did you say, this is the kind of thing I'm going to do, and when I got 2 followers, I'm going to keep doing this thing?
Right. I think I looked up in that I started a blog first, and I started that in like 2012 maybe. And it was really just a lot of the I feel like a lot of the content creators who are on different social platforms but started with a blog, they'll all tell you it was a creative outlet, right? Like, I'm a new attorney, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, but I've always had a creative side, and people were starting to make blogs in the years preceding that. So when I would share with my family, they're like, you could just start a blog. I'm like, me? Really? And then I would just share images, that I found. And I think I lucked up because back then there was no such thing as influencers. There was no such thing as monetization and making money, and this wasn't a job. So if you were blogging in 2012, it's because you were truly passionate about
Yeah.
what you were blogging about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I lucked up with that because I kind of found my foundation and my footing early. And so when I was able to monetize some years down the line, I really didn't have to shift anything, right? I was able to monetize kind of what I was already sharing. So I think that helped me tremendously with,
Yeah.
what I share, because everything I share I'm super passionate about, and I would share it even if I wasn't making money. So I think that's the key.
Yeah, I'm interested in how you view social media and your personal voice and other people's voices evolving. Like, what works on these platforms? 'Cause I watch a lot of YouTube creators, and like some of them you never see their face. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them you see their face, but they don't talk. They'll just use captions. Some of them
Right.
still can show like a day in the life. Some people used to show in the day of life, and that doesn't work anymore. Like, I wonder
Right.
how you think about finding a voice
Right.
on these
I,
platforms.
it's so tricky. Like, I feel like it's always a juggling act. Like, you're never gonna have your like 100% method there. So like, one thing about me, I always remain flexible. I'm always willing to try a new platform or kind of like a new feature on the platforms. I think that one, it keeps me challenged, which I know just me personally, I like to be challenged on different things.
Hmm.
But I think too is kind of finding how you can share what you're already passionate about in a new way. I was actually just talking to my managers today because I just started like being super active on threads, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not just gonna push my video content to threads because people are gonna be like, look, I already follow you on IG. Why am I gonna go, or I only follow you on TikTok. Why am I gonna go on the
Yeah.
threads? So one thing I have always loved talking about is like pop culture and just like nostalgic television shows and stuff. And my friends make fun of me because they're like, your memory's crazy. Like, why do you remember that? And so starting like a week ago, I just started sharing all these like random pop culture moments I loved and different things. And they're like doing so well on threads. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is my threads. Like, I come to threads to share these things that might be overkill on IG, but it's still me, it's still in my voice. And so, like, even on TikTok, people joke like, on TikTok, you could just be your regular self. On IG, you have to package it pretty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I might have a random thought that I would never put on a reel, but it would be funny on a TikTok, or it just might be another way for people to get to know me on TikTok, since that's my newer platform, I guess, compared to IG. So it's just kind of finding different ways to share kind of the content you already share, or share maybe a part of your personality that you haven't shared, because that's essentially what happened when IG went from just pictures to like now it's mostly reels, right? So now you're having to talk and entertain people more, I feel like, than you did when it was just pictures. So just remaining flexible and just kind of thinking outside of the box, but keeping that passion and keeping the authenticity. It's hard though, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I try to do.
Yeah, you talk often about like multiple revenue streams, and you said, I found this quote where you said, "One thing my dad always taught me was that I should never rely on one stream of income. His advice is one of the main reasons why I stuck with my blog for so long. There are times I wanted to quit, but I kept going, and I'm glad I did. I think it allows me to take risks in both my day job and with my blog." So
Mm-hmm.
you often talk about this, and I wonder, how do you actively apply that to your life and business today? You know, that effort to make sure you got these different streams coming in.
So basically, as an entrepreneur, I watched my dad as an entrepreneur, so that's definitely something he said and showed me. Like, having multiple streams of income is very important, and I feel like the biggest way I showed that, or I applied that to my life, is when I was like when I first started content creation and all these other things, I had a corporate job the whole time. And I didn't leave until 2020. And I mean, I had to basically be pushed up against the corner. Like I had no choice but to leave because I had the content creation just kind of blew up during quarantine.
Hmm.
And I also had some other businesses I was starting, and I was getting to the point with those where I needed to put a lot more time into them. They required some travel, and I worked remotely with my job, but I worked in clinical research. So
Okay.
obviously everything was just going crazy during that time. And I was like, okay, I can't physically do all these things. And what are the things that I should focus on now versus the thing that will always be there? And I already had like 10 years of corporate experience. So I was like, I can always go back, right? And but until then, I did the full-time job. I did those things, I'll do a side job and I'll always go back to corporate if I have to, because I just feel like when you have different places where you can get income, obviously it's a great way to build your wealth, but more importantly, it just gives you the feeling that like I don't have to take this brand deal that I don't feel like aligns with my brand,
Yeah.
my personal brand, because I don't have to be desperate for this brand deal, or I don't have to make content that maybe I'm not passionate about, and then I lose that authenticity because that's super important to me. So yeah, I think it just gives you more freedom, which I mean, that's what we all want, right? With our job, it's just like the freedom to do the things that we want to do when we have the option. So
Yeah, I'm interested in how you think about consistency because so many people will get started on these
mhm.
platforms and they'll go hard for 3 days, 4 days,
Yeah.
3 weeks, and then they just fall off, and then they'll come back and do another 3 days, 4 weeks. Like how do you think about consistency?
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is the biggest part where passion comes in, right? Because if you just are like, I'm gonna just make content because I want to make a whole lot of money, and I see these PR boxes and I see this and see that, I'm like, okay, that's definitely glamorous, but that's probably 20 or 30%, maybe for bigger influencers, is more glamorous, but you know, what sustains you and what you're doing mostly is just creating content, brainstorming, pitching brand. Like you're doing a lot of the non-glamorous things. So if you're not passionate about what you're writing about, you're not going to be consistent. If you're not doing it for the right reasons, you're not going to be consistent. And the I think the biggest thing that I learned about discipline, they say you have to keep a promise to yourself.
Hmm.
And I'm like, if I can't get up and make content every day like it's a job, why do I expect to make it a job, right? You can't just go to work 3 days and not show up for 2 days. They're gonna fire you, right? So if you get up and you make content for 3 days and then you don't post for 2 days, what are you teaching? You're teaching people like, I can't trust this person to create content, right? I can't
Hmm.
trust this person to be available or be present. So I'm just not even gonna worry about it. And a brand, they might not see your content, or your stats fluctuate or they're not consistent. So a brand is like, oh, we'll pass on them for now. So I think if you really want it to be a job, you have to treat it like a job. And like I said, I'm passionate about what I share. So it really doesn't, I mean, it feels like work, but
Yeah.
a fun job compared to what I've done before. So
Yeah.
definitely not, you know,
Yeah.
not too hard to be consistent now, but
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier, how platforms can be changing. Instagram used to be
mhm,
one way, and now it's more reels and etc. How
mhm,
do you, as an influencer, somebody who makes a living creating content, how do you pay attention, if you pay attention at all, to what's working on with the algorithms and the platform
mhm.
features?
I would say I'm an analytics nerd. I love digging down into the numbers and seeing like, oh, when are like my followers most active, or what did they like that I posted recently, or what just really jumped off, and okay, how can I take the essence of that and do it again, right? Not just completely knock it off again, but or
Hmm.
copy it again, but what is it that they liked about it, right? And I try to be really, I mean, I just started like a broadcast channel on my IG because I'm like, I really just want to connect with people a lot more, because I think when you know them and you kind of talk on just a normal personal level, you kind of see what are they looking for, what really connects with the people that follow me. And I'll just say, I don't understand the Instagram algorithm. I've had numerous meetings with Instagram, and it can be frustrating. Like you can post a video that you spent an hour on, and it's like nobody sees it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll make a fly by night video and it gets like 10 million views. I'm like, this doesn't even make any sense. So I tell everybody, if you find yourself really like just being over the algorithm, or you're like, why is my reach not here? Just post it, engage for an hour, and get off the app. You don't have to live on the app just because that's a part of your job, right? You can post, you can interact, but you don't have to be sitting there, playing the comparison game or being frustrated. So I just think you just have to be try to stay as positive as possible and focus on the analytics you can control. Because I can't control if IG wants to come tomorrow and make my reach 10 million or make it 10 people. I can't control that, but
Yeah.
I can control making my content every day, posting what I want to post, but also what, you know, helps my audience. And that's all I can really do. And I think that's what keeps me from spiraling, sometimes when the content doesn't do how I want it to be,
Yeah.
like how I want it to perform, I guess.
Yeah, and you said to treat this like a job, and I wonder how much thoughtfulness in advance goes into creating this content. Like, are you like doing like real content planning, or are you like planning out the next 2 3 weeks, a month? Are you using spreadsheets for that, or are you waiting day by day for inspiration to hit? Like, oh, I'm gonna make a post about that.
I would say it's a little bit of both. Honestly, I have managers, so they are constantly doing strategy with me. They probably are like, "Can this girl stick to the content calendar?" Because I'm sure, like, I know they could probably make a calendar for me, right? And be like, post this on this day,
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
all
yeah.
your pillars, right? Which because I'm lifestyle, it is sometimes hard because I'll be like, dang, I've like literally only posted about my husband like this week, or I haven't posted any fashion in 2 weeks. So I do like to hit all the pillars, but I think it's just my personality. I hate being like so, I don't know, regimented sometimes. So like sometimes I'm good about it and sometimes I'm like, oh, I just had this idea, and I'll have ideas strike all the time. I have so many lists with ideas. So I think the sweet spot is having the schedule where I know I want to do a certain amount of this type of post this week, a certain amount of that type of post this week. And then I have a running list of just ideas and things that come to me. And maybe like there's an idea that makes sense to post during a certain sale, right? Or maybe there's an idea that I have that's like, oh, this will be better during holiday, because certain times a year are going to be more scheduled out
Mm-hmm.
because during the holidays you're going to be posting a lot of holiday content, or like we have Easter coming up, so there's certain things I know I want to capture for that, so I can go ahead and plan those. But I just like a little bit of both because I do think as a true creative, you can feel stifled if you have to be too scheduled out. So I don't want to feel that way, but I do understand that if you want to be consistent and you want to constantly give value, sometimes you do have to make sure you're organized. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think my manager like that answer. She might be messaging me like, no, get your
Exactly.
content calendar.
I want you to talk about your business now, and like you're in the natural hair care space, and
Mhm.
like this a result of, hey, I have this platform, I would love to offer something to the
Mhm.
community, or is something you had an idea for previous to that, and the platform just allows you the opportunity to explore.
Yeah. So definitely an idea I had before. I grew up, my mom was a cosmetologist and cosmetology instructor. So my whole life, I've been going to the salons. And I feel like if you ask any salon owner's child, you were in that salon every weekend, every night, after school and everything. And one thing about my mom, she always worked in kind of like an upscale salon where she would be the only black stylist or one of two black stylists, and most of her, if not all of her clientele, were black women. And they would come, and there was only one product. Everybody knows Mazzani, which Mazzani is great,
Yeah.
but that was the only product. And it's like, okay, everyone else can choose from all these different products, but the one product geared towards our hair texture, and I guess that was suitable for, I guess, a luxury salon, was Mazzani. So I know I always just kind of, I think seeing women come to the salon, because especially for black women, it's almost like a therapy situation. Like you come, you've had a long day, you get your hair done, you leave feeling beautiful, and it's just a transformative experience. I think that always resonated with me, which is where like the beauty, I guess, pillar for me comes. And I had been talking to my husband actually a lot about how I was like, I really want to start a hair care brand. Like I want it to be as clean as possible because I had a close family member get diagnosed with cancer, and I was trying to find her clean products.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I want to get her like clean hair care, clean everything. And I was like, man, I wish we could have something that was like super as clean as possible, vegan, cruelty free, but also still have that luxury feeling that the women would have when they would come in my mom's salon. And so my husband's like, all right, look, we're stuck at home. So let's go ahead and do this hair care. Cause it was clearly we were gonna be quarantined for a while. And we did the research. He actually found a chemist that could do the type of product I wanted, which was like clean, cruelty free, also specialized in like textured hair, black hair. And I was like, oh, perfect. Let's do it. And so I was like, let's start with a product that I know is important to my regimen, which is going to be a hair mask and deep conditioning mask. And I started with that, and we formulated it for a long time. And then, all the different, we ran into a lot of different things with just kind of we had a lot of issues with delays of packages during 2020 and 2021. It was just a lot, but we launched it, and it's an amazing hair mask, and that's the only one I've used literally since 2020. And we are almost done formulating our second product. But I feel like I have sophomore jinx. Is that what they call it when you have a second album? Where I just want it to be as perfect as the mask. But I'm fine with taking my time because I just want to put out things that I'm passionate about and that I feel like I would use. So it has to be perfect. But
where can people find your stuff?
So Easeline Beauty is the website, and we have an IG page, and I actually have it linked on my bio too. So if they go to my page, it's linked there, and also the website. So, and we're sold on Amazon. So use your Amazon Prime, and you can get it. Your 2-day free shipping if you want to do Amazon. And we're currently talking to a few retailers, so hopefully you'll be able to like go in the store and get it.
Dig that.
But
what is in Marche's EDC, your everyday carry? Like, what are the things that like beyond your phone that you always gotta have like nearby? When you leave the house, you're in the car, you're at work, you're in the gym, like wherever you at, these things got to be close.
Honestly, if you said don't put my phone,
it can't be your phone. Everybody uses the phone. Okay,
my camera. I would say my camera, because I like to just capture a lot of video. I've realized the hardest thing about video content is capturing it in the moment, right? Because then you think you want a video and you're like, I don't have any content.
Yeah.
So my camera and everything else is for my daughter. Okay, I have to have everything she might need. So it's almost like everything I might want as just taking a back seat.
Are you talking about your phone camera now? Are you cheating on this one?
No,
I feel like you're cheating.
I'm this camera.
I'll dig it. What do you use?
Yeah.
Tell me what you use. What camera do you use?
Okay, don't get this one because I feel like this was about obsolete. But it's the Canon M50, but it's so lightweight. Yeah. And then I got this lens. It's the 11 to 22 millimeter Canon lens.
Dig it.
And it's like lightweight, small and stuff. But I really want to get something like everyone. I feel like I'm seeing them use these like Sony. They're like cinematic cameras. I really want something that's like a little more cinematic because I just want to make. I don't know. I just love the feel of the videos that come from them. Yeah. So I think I'm probably gonna upgrade soon, but I don't know. I told myself I have to start posting YouTube videos and be consistent before I can upgrade myself on the camera.
I love it.
To make a deal with myself.
I got one more for you. And so how do you work with your husband? Like how do you and him balance the business relationship and the partnership?
Man, I think because we've known each other for so long, we actually met in middle school, so we know each other, and I think we are very similar, just kind of like how we grew up and kind of like our ways of handling things and our ways of communicating, which helps, right? Because I feel like we got a little bit of a head start there. And also he is a good partner for me because in the ways that he is strong, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very type A. He's super laid back, and he can see when something is about to make me crash out,
Yeah.
And he'll be like, babe, it's okay. Like, I'll handle it. Like, let me do this. Or he will talk me down. Like, it's not a big deal or it's okay. We'll do this. And so I think just honoring each other's strong, I guess, characteristics or strong points, and not feeling like, I think like sometimes egos can get in the way when you work with somebody, even if it's not a romantic relationship, it could be a friend. And like, I don't feel like if he steps up in a situation or he takes the lead in a situation, that's a knock on me.
Yeah.
I'm like thankful, you know what I mean? Like, thank you for taking the reins on this situation. And so I think just open communication, everything that makes a marriage strong makes a partnership strong. Anybody will tell you, even if they start a business with a complete stranger, it is like a marriage. So I think just communication, knowing when to let the other person take the reins is a huge part, and leaving your ego at the door, because it's just like y'all have a common goal, and it shouldn't be about like one person feeling better than the other or one person getting their way. It's about the business moving forward in the best possible way. And when you keep your eye on the prize, it makes it a lot easier to do.